Hey, how's it going, everybody? Sorry for the delay there. My dogs hate me. Excuse me. But this is just going to be a short video anyway. Welcome to our first episode of the Watchdog in the new year. As I said, this is going to be a very short episode. And of course, this is found exclusively on the Synagogue News. I am your host, CJ Cox, here to tell you, of course, that we are living in biblical times. Go ahead and go through some quick channel housekeeping before I get into the actual episode here today. So first off, want to remind you guys to please like, share, and subscribe. Hit that bell to get notified every time the video is live. And also want to let you guys know that for this, since we are starting a new year now, we are going to try and sort of recommit to the whole idea of being live every Tuesday and Thursday. It hasn't gone particularly well in the years that we've had this show up so far, but we're going to attempt at least to do better at that. So appreciate all you guys, excuse me, who are here and been watching with us and all that other kind of stuff. Also want to let you guys know that we can be followed on various social media platforms. I'm on Gab, Parler, Facebook, Twitter, and Minds. I have to tag the Synagogue. Of course, also want to let you know that you can subscribe to this channel financially through the Patreon. And again, that would be found at the tag the Synagogue, or give a one-time donation to the PayPal. And information for that will be found in the description below, though it is not currently there at the moment. Excuse me. Wow. Anyways, so this is going to be a relatively short video. Not actually reporting on anything today, rather just kind of want to let you guys know on, about everything that is going to be going on this year. So obviously the first Watchdog episode of the new year. Should have been like the 6th, but nevertheless, it's been taking a while for us to get everything up. Plus, I've been having a lot of work done for the other channel so that I can get up to speed on some stuff I've been behind on. Excuse me, my goodness. But yeah, I just want to let you guys know basically what's all going on and what our plans are for this coming year. So first and foremost, hang on one second. Drink my tea here. It's ridiculous. Ugh. Cough, cough, cough. Anyways, first thing I want to let you guys know on is, like I said, we are going to try and be live every single Tuesday and Thursday. That's always been the goal, but I figure since we're in a new year now, we can kind of try and recommit to that. We have an overall goal here, which is to basically try and get this channel up to about 1,000 subs by the end of this year. Now, this channel is not even yet at 100 subs. We're currently at 74, so that might seem a little bit ambitious, but a big part of the reason why this channel lacks the subscribers that the other channel would have, not only is it younger, but on top of that, it's just not something that I've paid a lot of special attention to. If we were to actually start to pay some more special attention, then we might actually have a more successful channel here, right? If we were to actually have a consistent Tuesday and Thursday posting, same time every day, then, we'd actually have more likelihood of people being on here. And also if we were maintaining more of a professional atmosphere here with, intros and banners and more professional style of delivering news and stuff like that, all of that can go a long way. And so that's all going to be coming down the pipeline this coming year. So the first part of that, of course, is that we're going to be doing every Tuesday and every Thursday a episode here of the Watchdog. They may not end up being live. We want to try and go live, but I want to make sure that they're up on 12 p.m. every day mountain, or every Thursday and Tuesday mountain time. And so if I'm working one of those days or something like that, we might just not have the episode live. That may end up working out for our benefit anyways. because if they're not live, obviously that means I have an opportunity to edit out anything that was not so professional looking, stuff like that. But nevertheless, wanted to let you guys know about that. Also, we are going to start a blog for this channel. I'm going to be posting it probably on Fridays. I assume we'll be going with 12 p.m. again, Mountain Time, every Friday. I'm not sure when the first blog post will be up. I'd like it to be tomorrow, but it may end up being next week. We'll see what happens. It'll likely be through Patreon, although I might consider getting a Blogspot account and doing everything there. But nevertheless, I figure that it would probably be a good idea for us to get a weekly blog here to talk about, some more specific political topics or news-oriented topics that we wouldn't necessarily be talking about all the time. This is something that, of course, is standard for most of the political YouTube channels out there. Daily Wire obviously has a blog. If you were to go to, Fox News, they obviously have the Fox website and would write a bunch of articles there. Obviously CNN would have their own articles. I believe Tucker Carlson does write blogs. And of course, you have a lot of YouTubers like our Christian YouTubers like Michael Brown and Doug Wilson and etc. who also write blogs. So we're going to have a blog related to this channel coming up here very soon. And, you'll be able to read it every Friday at about 12 p.m. Mountain Time. Now, this is not going to be free. The blog is going to be something that you'll have to pay to access. That is actually part of the reason why I want to get it up, is because, I obviously want to do the stuff that I'm doing here on YouTube as a career. And I obviously need to incentivize the stuff that I'm doing in order for that to be, a reality, in order for that to be something that's even remotely realistic. Now, I don't want to take away the content that we're posting on the channel, so I'm not going to put the shows themselves behind a paywall, although if we ever add additional shows, those might be. But I figure putting the blog behind a paywall might actually be a way to generate some kind of an income, generate some more interest in the channel, and, incentivize people to actually want to contribute in some sort of financial fashion. Again, I'm not sure if it'll be through Patreon or through Blogspot. Right now, this channel and the Synagogue main channel utilize the same Patreon account. So I would like to get a second Patreon account. And that would obviously help so that people weren't, subscribing to the Patreon for the other channel and then getting the content that they weren't necessarily interested in from this channel. Although we may work out something where, people who have been longtime patrons on both channels, like, for example, got a good friend, Jamie Russell, who's been contributing here for quite a long period of time. We might work out something to where you can access both Patreons. But, nevertheless, I just want to let everybody know. So the blog's going to be called Bloglodite, like troglodyte, kind of jump, leading off of the whole caveman motif that we kind of have going on here. Obviously the liberals have this insult that they think is somehow relevant, calling conservatives Neanderthals, because we're all stuck in the past and knuckle draggers and all that kind of stuff. And I figure just kind of own it. Bloglodite, I feel like, is kind of clever. So that's kind of what we're going to call it. And it is, of course, going to be focused primarily on political and religious things. Some of you guys are expecting, if you're watching the other channel, are expecting a video blog to be coming up on that channel. That is not the same as Bloglodite. That is a different thing. That one's going to be recorded, whereas this one is going to be read, typed out, all that kind of stuff. And it is not associated with the Synagogue News channel. It is unique to the Synagogue channel itself. So if you're thinking, oh, so this is that whole breakfast tea thing, no, different thing. This is a unique to this channel feature. And it'll be focusing on more specific issues, right? So when we're doing this stuff, we're talking about, basically the news. what's going on in a recent election? Why is there a riot in thus and such a country? What's going on with the bang bang and all that other kind of stuff, right? YouTube and the tech overlords, what are they doing? Recent fights with Big Con and Big Eva and all this other kind of stuff. What I want to do with the Blog Luddite feature is speak about more specific things, either pertaining to a certain event, like here's just a blog that's completely dedicated to, for example, speaking about the Daily Wire, whether or not they can be trusted or not. I know a lot of people in the conservative realm don't really like them, and obviously a lot of other people do. I'm quite a fan, as you guys know. But, so like a specific thing talking about that. Or if not like a news thing, maybe a personality, which, again, you could use the Daily Wire as an example of that. Or, a certain political candidate or a certain political position or certain political philosophies or certain aspects of political philosophy, but just basically, your standard kind of blog thing. We got a topic we're going to talk about, and that's what the entire blog is going to be about. Whereas this show would operate like your political talk shows where we, cycle through topics on, each episode. And of course, they're always topical. The stuff we'd be talking about on Blog Luddite may not actually be topical. Could be just something that I'm wanting to talk about at the moment. So like an example of where that would be different. Here, if I'm talking about abortion, it's because something is happening in the news that leads me to be talking about, that's got me to be talking about abortion, right? So for example, when Roe v. Wade was repealed, obviously we were talking about it at that point. Whereas on Blog Luddite, you would not actually need anything of that nature. I could just start a blog on, hey, this is some of my thoughts on abortion, or this thing about abortion that happened 5 years ago, or what have you, right? It would also allow me to start, being a lot more detailed with certain things that I'm constantly referencing for you guys, like the World Alliance of Religions for Peace, or the Sino-Vatican Provisional Agreement of 2018, or so on and so forth. I could just have a blog entry where I go in depth explaining those kinds of things. And then anybody who is not aware of those can go back and read them. And we don't have to necessarily say, we've talked about it before. You guys can go and look for yourselves, because I don't necessarily have a good count of everything I've talked about and where and when I talked about it and that kind of stuff, which is perhaps something I should be doing, but nevertheless. So yeah, I want to announce that. Also want to say we're going to try and do at least one short every week on this channel as well. Shorts would be talking about anything that I happen to have on my mind, but of course it's something that's going to be a minute or less. But I figure basically we're going to start utilizing shorts as a kind of commercial. We recently had people talking about the whole Balenciaga thing, and I used that as an opportunity to make a short about how Kennedy v. Louisiana 2008 said that it was unconstitutional under the Constitution's cruel and unusual punishment clause to execute pedophiles. And basically the whole point of that blog was to say, hey, that's messed up. We should fight to try and overturn this. And by the way, if you want to know more, subscribe to the Synagogue News. I do this, weekly podcast, right? So we're going to keep using shorts, hopefully about once a week on this channel in that manner, kind of using them as like commercials, so to speak, for the show. Maybe we'll post them more than once a week, and kind of like say, post a Monday one that talks about what we're going to talk about on Tuesday, and a Wednesday one that talks about what we'll be referencing on Wednesday, and so on and so forth, or excuse me, on Thursday, and so on and so forth, right? So that's going to be a new addition here. I do want to try and get an intro started. So if you know anybody who knows how to animate, I am looking to get a intro made, as well as a couple transitions. I do need somebody who's particularly good, and I am willing to pay for it. But nevertheless, we want to get like probably about, I don't know exactly how long it would be, maybe like 5 to 10 second intro started. I'd like to get an outro as well, maybe some background music, some different transitions and stuff like that. And I've had people help me with this kind of stuff before, hence the pretty smooth looking display that you guys have right now, as well as my logo. I've had good friends, Nick and Jamie, helping me with those things respectively. But I'd like to get somebody who's more adept at animation to make some of the stuff that I want to put forward here. And that'll make everything, of course, look a lot smoother and nicer. On my side, by the way, we're going to start having a little sort of studio, quote unquote, here. So that'll make everything a lot better. And yeah, just, getting everything more streamlined and making it a little bit more, how you say, professional looking, I guess. What else do we have here? There's a couple other things I wanted to talk about. Oh, yeah. So I want to, on Wednesdays, have debates or discussions on this channel. I'm not going to promise that would happen every Wednesday because it's pretty difficult to get people to talk about political things, right? I've had a couple guests on this channel before. I've talked to Nicholas Whitmer on stuff like, what's the best way to approach the pro-life issue. I've had debates with the Raging Atheist on issues like, the Great Party Switch and stuff like that. And of course, we had an interview with Adam Kokesh, as well as a debate with Adam Kokesh. The debate was on the Constitution and whether or not it's good for human liberty. And the interview was just talking to the libertarian man himself. We've also had interviews with Ammon Bundy, Ammon Bundy, who was former gubernatorial candidate this last election cycle, independent gubernatorial candidate for Idaho 2022. The man who ended up receiving my own vote, actually, which fortunately he lost, but, citizens of this country are stupid. What are you going to do? Anyways, I'd like to be more consistent with that. It's just all a matter of actually getting people on, which is a lot more difficult than it is with the other channel. Big part of that, of course, is just because I've made a lot of connections in the apologetics world. So it's pretty easy to get people to talk to in apologetics. But when it comes to things like politics and journalism and stuff like that, I've yet to make any of those connections, and I'm still only a 74 subscriber channel here. But nevertheless, we are going to try and consistently on Wednesdays get you some content like that. And so the way that this would all end up working out then is Monday and Wednesday, you'd have little 1-minute shorts being posted, right? Tuesday and Thursday, you'd have full hour-long episodes of the Watchdog. Friday, you would have posts of Bloglodite on either Blogspot or Patreon. And then Wednesdays, but not necessarily every Wednesday, we would have a debate or a discussion that is not necessarily an episode of the Watchdog podcast, but which nevertheless is going to be here on the Synagogue News channel. So that's sort of the schedule, I guess, that we've set up for ourselves. And this is how I would like to, get everything here set up. And again, part of this is going to be setting up a new Patreon, getting new intros started. I want to start interviewing people on the ground. I'm going to start doing like legitimate journalism. So what I mean by that is I'm going to start going to, protests and political speeches. And first it's going to be pretty localized here to Idaho because I don't have a ton of money. But as more money is coming in, we're going to be having the ability to go, take trips and watch a local lecture from Ben Shapiro or watch a debate in another state to, where an important election is going down, or, do some on the ground reporting on some sort of major geopolitical event taking place in Oregon or California, or maybe even across the country in places like DC and stuff like that. Right now, of course, that part is a little bit more long-term, but just to give you guys an idea of what we're trying to develop here on this channel. And eventually, this is probably years from now, but eventually I will try to have potentially other shows on this channel, right? You notice it's the Watchdog podcast, but the Synagogue News channel. I did that for a specific reason. It's because at some point I may end up allowing somebody else to have their own podcasts, right? Obviously, it just all depends on how everything ends up working out, how much money we're able to bring in, all that other kind of stuff. And a big part of this, by the way, is another element that we're going to try and add here is merch. I've had a couple of you guys reach out to me and say, hey, I really like the Watchdog logo. I really like some of the sayings that you have to say, like living in biblical times, will you compromise, all that kind of stuff. Really like the Synagogue caveman that you have as your main logo for everything. Could we buy that on a shirt, on a beanie, or a hat, or something like that? Well, for a long time, of course, the answer's been no, because the only people I've actually had who could develop that kind of product has been Patreon. I don't trust Patreon, and also their products, for lack of a better term, kind of suck. But I am now talking to people who can make merch like that, and so we are going to start not only on this channel, but on the other channel as well, but obviously I'll announce that on that channel. We are going to start actually releasing different kinds of merch, right? And at first, it's probably just going to be simple stuff like hats and coffee mugs and maybe some t-shirts. But eventually, of course, as we have more of a fan base, as we have the ability to actually produce more product, we will be able to sell you guys things like, sweatshirts and all this other kind of stuff. And then that, of course, in turn, will help us to develop a more robust program for you here on the Watchdog. I know for a lot of people it may seem like, okay, well, so this has been something we've been getting for free. You're still going to get the show for free. Okay, there's no necessity to purchase the show. I want you guys to keep getting this for free because this is important information, right? But in order to try and make sure we can continue to do this and perhaps even leave the standard job that I have, that I'm working now, we are going to try and add other elements on top of the show. You can obviously always give to Patreon and give the one-time donations through PayPal and stuff like that. But in having a blog that you can pay for to access, that incentivizes you to actually financially contribute to us, right? In having some merch you can wear, that incentivizes you to maybe you like the clothing or something like that. That incentivizes you to give a little bit more money for us, so that we can, bring you a better product. And also in developing better free content as well, that also incentivizes people in trying to, or in wanting to rather, give in the donations that don't necessarily benefit per se, but which nevertheless do contribute to a robust and fantastic program, which at this moment we really haven't had. That's kind of the main gist of everything that we've got so far. There's probably going to be some other stuff here as well. We don't have everything quite set in stone yet. And of course, I have an entirely separate channel that I have. In fact, I have two separate channels. Many of you guys may not know, I recently launched a third channel about a week or two ago. I won't tell you guys much about that. But nevertheless, it's not related to religious content, nor is it related to political content. It's a music channel. But at any rate, so we're going to have to find a way to balance all of this, of course. But the thing is the more work we put into this, the more you guys have incentive to contribute yourselves, the better the show gets, the more time we're dedicating to it, all that other kind of stuff, right? So I think this is going to be a good thing. Again, we're going to be doing the podcast for an hour, 12 p.m. Mountain Time, every Tuesday and every Thursday. We're going to try and have 12 p.m. Shows on Wednesdays, maybe 5 p.m. actually on Wednesdays. We're going to try and utilize shorts as commercials on Mondays and Wednesdays, kind of just random times for that. And we are going to try and get a blog post posted every Friday, and that gives you Synagogue News content every weekday, either in the form of a short, the Watchdog podcast, the debate/discussion, or the Blogladite blog, right? And with that kind of consistent content, hopefully we're going to see an uptake in people, wanting to contribute not only financially, but also just subscribe and view, of course, right? Because even if you're not contributing, the fact that you're here watching is a big deal, right? Obviously, if I have 74 subscribers and all of them are giving me money, well, I actually would much rather have 1,000 subscribers and none of them giving me money, because the point is ultimately to get the information out. So, that's obviously going to be a big part of this as well. Let's go ahead and see. I don't know if anybody's had any comments or questions or anything like that, but let's see if we have. I see Ryan and Jamie here. Shalom to you both, and thank you for being here. Leftists are by definition troglodytes. Oh, the irony. It is funny. But I kind of just own the whole thing. In fact, fun fact, the origin of the Watchdog caveman logo is a long time ago, about 2015, 2014 area. I got a kick out of the fact that people would always insult my budding Christian beliefs and my well-established conservative political beliefs by saying something along the lines of, you're a Neanderthal, or we're not stuck in the 1950s anymore. And so I decided, well, wouldn't it be funny to have a 1950s Neanderthal? So I drew the little character you see here, right? He's got the big Neanderthal brow and the fedora to indicate that he's from the 1930s or 40s or something like that. And then I decided, well, wouldn't it be funny also if I made him Jewish? Hence the Jew curl that you see there and the big beard. Not only because I'm Jewish, but also because of the fact that the so-called Judeo-Christian worldview, by which I just mean the Bible, because there's really no such thing as a Judeo-Christian worldview. Christians and Jews look at things very differently. But nevertheless, the Bible itself is very much hated. And of course, the Jews are probably the most despised ethnic group in the entire world. And so I kind of thought that would be funny. And then, of course, the synagogue aspect just made him have that kind of fed up look of, I'm just done with everything. But nevertheless, it is true that the leftists are, the true bozos here. But I like the whole troglodyte motif, Neanderthal motif, all that kind of stuff. It is, it just makes me laugh. You know what I mean? And it's also one of those things where it's like, okay, well, I mean, if you're going to call me it, fine, whatever. I mean, cavemen were doing better than we are. At least they knew what a boy and a girl was, right? At any rate, though, let's see. Daily Wire has got great hosts. Their contracts are garbage. Indeed, that is very true, as we recently discovered. And not all their hosts are created equal. Matt Walsh, even though he's Catholic, is my favorite of them. And I do really like Ben Shapiro and Andrew Klavan, but they both have significant problems. Michael Knowles frustrates me to all get up. Really like Jordan Peterson. Not a big fan of Candace Owens, but all of them, of course, are beholden to the big tech overlords as a result of their contracts, which is kind of lame, and which was only recently exposed by Steven Crowder, who I'm also a big fan of. I was kind of difficult, not difficult. I was kind of disappointed to hear that, but nevertheless, what are you going to do, right? I am glad Steven Crowder revealed that. I hope the Daily Wire amends that a little bit, because I am big fans of them. But, obviously it's all up to Jeremy Boring. And we'll see what ends up happening. I know that they're not particularly happy with Crowder right now, but nevertheless, I think it had to be said. Although, perhaps it is not wise to record your friends in a private conversation. I get all sides there, but nevertheless, it is true. Their contracts, are very terrible. Jamie says, I am trying to learn right now. I assume that's in reference to animation, as I was talking about that earlier. If that is, I'd be more than happy to work with you there. You're obviously, for those who don't know, the Watchdog logo, which you can see in the upper left-hand corner, was designed by, well, the base design was mine, but the perfecting of it, the actual artist work, was done by Jamie Russell, who I must say is an absolute artist, as that logo demonstrates. I originally had kind of a crude, cartoonish looking bulldog that I made on Microsoft Paint, and he turned it into this Great Pyrenees sheepdog comic style masterpiece that it is. Very much proud of that. And the logo for the synagogue itself, the American Captain America shield with the synagogue logo and Think Like a Neanderthal on it, that was actually done by another person who I think is very artistically brilliant, and that is my good friend Nicholas Whitmer. But nevertheless, yeah, Jamie, I'd be willing to work with you on that and even pay you if you were interested. But not, anyways, so you'd want to probably begin reaching out via Reddit or Facebook in terms of political minds. Maybe reach out to Steven Crowder. Also look to Utreon. That is actually all a lot of good ideas there, Ryan. I'm certainly going to have to do that. I think one of the things that's going to benefit me here is the fact that I do have pretty decent relationships with Ammon Bundy and with Adam Kokesh. I should probably be reaching out to people like Crowder as well. Cross Politic is in my same state, and that could open up a whole can of worms there if I was able to get in contact with them, because not only would that be the three of them, but also John Harris and A.D. Robles are associated with them. They know very many politicians throughout the country. And of course, Doug Wilson is a big part of that as well. So that could potentially be helpful also. But I think Crowder would also be potentially helpful, especially since he's got an eye on the little guy, which at this point I certainly am. So that would definitely be helpful. And the avatar is a funny idea. I appreciate that. Looks like that's about it for the comments. So yeah, to reiterate for you guys, this was not a standard episode of the Watchdog. Just letting you guys know what's up. We are going to start doing consistent 12 p.m. Mountain Time, Tuesday and Thursday shows. We are going to start a blog, Blogladite, posted at 12 p.m. every Friday. We are going to have shorts, probably every Monday, but maybe every Monday and Wednesday. And we are going to try and get debates and discussions to be posted on Wednesday, thus giving you guys 5 consistent days of Synagogue News content. It's ambitious, but nevertheless, I think it can be done. And with your guys' help and with the grace of our Almighty God, Jesus Christ, I think we could definitely have something very impressive here. I do think, and I don't mean to toot my horn here at all, but I do think there is some uniqueness in what we do here in talking about things, not only from a specifically Christian bent, but from a deeply constitutionalist, Burkean-style conservatism kind of bent, openly nationalistic, and very much concerned with the, politics of the world, and specifically the Middle East, as well as politics of the church. There aren't very many shows that are out there talking about the World Alliance of Religions for Peace, the Vatican, the things that are going on in the World Council of Churches, even the WEF and stuff like that, and doing so from a sane point of view as well, right? Because we got guys like Alex Jones, who I don't even necessarily mind, but he's kind of the loopy conspiracy guy, right? We're kind of melding what cross-politic does with Christianity, what Alex Jones does with conspiracy, and bringing that together under an openly nationalist and openly Burkean conservative bent, which is just a fancy way of saying constitutionalism, really, because that's the American version of Burkeanism. But nevertheless, and it does make this show somewhat unique. And so I hope that we can get this out to more people. I hope that we can actually have a lot of success here. Obviously, the first instance of us doing this consistently is going to be next week, because this is just the announcement for everything that we're going to start this week, this year. And for those of you guys who are fans of the Synagogue Apologetics channel, similar changes are coming to that channel as well. I want everything here to be very professional. We're trying to do this as a career. I can tell you right now, it's very difficult working 40 to 50 hours a week, and then also trying to put a lot of, hours into studying for this and doing this and stuff like that as well. But, obviously got to provide for the family. I think the scripture says that those who don't provide for their family are even worse than an unbeliever, and got to do a good high quality job for you guys here. So until the Lord decides otherwise, we're putting in the 40, 50 hours, and we're doing a whole bunch of hours of study to make this show good as well. But eventually it's going to pay off, I think. So I appreciate you guys for watching this. We're going to go ahead and get out of here now, because that's all this was about. Want to remind you guys to be watchdogs, think like a Neanderthal, and I'd like to ask you guys the question, in the face of Armageddon, will you compromise? Shalom, friends.